We now take a look at our special report today. Tomorrow, when Minister for Finance Matia Kasaija reads the national budget, there will be praises and criticisms, but many do not know Uganda's economic journey has been through thick and thin. Today, New Vision TV brings you the third of the four-part series of the performance of the economy since 1986.
33 years ago, there was nothing in the government coffers. It was a hopeless case, but the new administration, the NRM, fresh from the bush, struggled to turn things around. Uganda's economy is far from perfect today, but it is important to look back over the journey that has brought us thus far. Some farmers were on the verge of cutting down their coffee trees. The cooperatives had not paid them for long. The effect of the disbandment of the Coffee Marketing Board meant they were now being paid cash for the crop thanks to the new competition and were getting paid more. They were earning twice more than the days when Coffee Marketing Board had the monopoly of buying coffee. Finance Minister Joash Mayanja Nkanji, in his 1994-1995 budget speech on reporting how the liberalization of Coffee Marketing Board was proving such a success, said, in 1986, when international prices were over $4, about 15,000 shillings today per kilo, farmers only received 13 cents, about 487 shillings today per kilo. Earlier this year, when prices were around $1.20, about 4,500 shillings today per kilo, farmers were getting almost 40 cents, about 1,500 shillings today per kilo, 3 times the 1986 price. But this success threatened to throw the government's plans for the economy into disarray. In 1993-1994, coffee receipts jumped 61%. These and other factors saw the shilling appreciate 22%. A stronger shilling would affect exporters by making them earn less shillings for their dollar and affect farm gate prices and production, which the government was trying to jumpstart. So as a way to moderate the shilling's appreciation, Nkanji proposed a coffee stabilization tax of 20% on coffee sold for more than 1,100 shillings and 40% on prices above 2,200 shillings. The tax was supposed to help smoothen out the fluctuations in the exchange rate so as not only to help coffee farmers but all exporters as well. In addition, the removal of the additional cash would help keep inflation in check. The tax was unpopular, causing disquiet in the industry. The stabilization tax was abolished in the 1996-1997 budget, but more difficult economic decisions were to come. In 1996, in a bid to better tap into the growing consumption trends, the government replaced sales tax and commercial transaction levy with value-added tax. Despite a whole year of consultation and training, the shopkeepers of Kampala closed their shops in protest over the tax, bringing the capital to a grinding halt. They complained that it was too difficult to manage and would make them go out of business. VAT collections are now second only to tax on personal incomes as a proportion of total revenue collected by the Uganda Revenue Authority. Nkanji came up with an audacious plan to fire up the economy through the sale of state enterprises. As far back as the first budget speech under the NRM in 1986, the government's portfolio of 100-plus state enterprises was recognized as an unsustainable drain on the state coffers. It required 22.7 billion Uganda shillings to keep them afloat, with no hope of any monetary return. Crispus Chionga, in the 1991-1992 speech, declared the intention to retain only 16 of the 112 public enterprises, hold majority shares in 23, a minority stake in 13, and the rest be flogged off or shut down altogether. Nkanji reported in his 1993-1994 speech that 9 companies had already been lined up for sale and expected that the process of privatization would be speeded up with the enactment of the Public Enterprise Reform and Divestiture Bill. In 1994-1995, the finance minister reported that 13 public enterprises had been sold off and 51.7 billion shillings had been made. He said an additional 11 companies had been offered to prospective investors. 25 were being prepared and 18 liquidated. At the end of the 1990s, there was a spate of bank closures, including that of Greenland Bank, which was a bitter pill the government had to swallow in order to rein in the industry, which was for a long time undercapitalized and under-regulated. The genesis of this seismic shift in the industry was the government's decision to give greater autonomy to Bank of Uganda through the amendment of the act that governed it and beef up its capacity to regulate the sector. An emboldened Bank of Uganda went around swinging the axe, felling Tefe Bank, International Credit Bank, Sembule Bank, Cooperative Bank, Trust Bank, and Greenland Bank before the turn of the century. The unpopular action helped revitalize the industry and put it at the center of driving economic growth. The critiques of the privatization of UCB and the bank closures of the latter part of 1990s had argued that it delivered the financial sector into foreign hands. The central bank argues that the banks were poorly managed, would have eventually collapsed under the weight of the bad loans they were carrying, and were actually an illegal conduit for wealth from and suspecting depositors to the bank's owners, a situation, if left unchecked, would have produced more problems to the wider economy and the politics of the country. No single privatization polarized the country more than that of Uganda Commercial Bank, the country's biggest bank by branch network, which played a critical role in revenue collections and paying public servants. In the 1980s, the NRM government underwrote an ambitious branch expansion drive that saw it grow to 190 branches countrywide. In the 1988-89 budget speech, Chiyonga reported the bank would open 136 branches in the new financial year. This network is one through which the ill-fated Rural Farmers Credit Scheme was channeled. The Rural Farmers Credit Scheme was intended at providing credit to smallholder farmers. These two initiatives were to prove the bank's downfall. Due to unsustainability, the branch network was pared down to 65 branches at the time of its sale to South African Stanbic Bank in 2001. The Rural Farmers Credit Scheme was poorly executed and ended up saddling the bank with more than 60 billion shillings of bad loans that had to be transferred to non-performing assets recovery trust set up specifically to recover UCB's bad loans. The government plugged the hole created by the removal of these assets by injecting an additional 100 billion shillings into UCB. Do not miss the last part tomorrow, focusing on how infrastructure took over from poverty alleviation.